back. So second half of the week, I'm working on the foreplane here, and just creating these little supports here for the bell crank brackets. Mark was a bit concerned that there was going to be some flex in there, which actually they were. The carbon fiber is strong, but you know, just sort of standing free like that does have some flex, so going to beef those up and get rid of that. And here's that sort of forward bulkhead there that I put in the other day that you're looking at for supporting the front spar of the foreplane. And here you can see I've done the layup in there, so that was, we're actually halfway through doing the layup here. So it's quite a job. It was like a 4-hour marathon because I was the only one doing this, and I had to do 6 layers on each corner there, so 4 different spots, and you got it underneath and on top, so it's quite a job, but I got it done. And then Devon was working on spraying those brackets there that hold the main gear doors on. So it's got those painted up in gloss black. And this is the end of the day on Wednesday, and I finally got out of there about 6:30, and after doing all that marathon layup, because I only started at 2:30. So it worked out nicely, and that's that one job done now, so I can move on to the next thing. And here's those support brackets there for the bell cranks, and Devon's just sort of cleaned those up a little bit and fed them in so the carbon fiber will lay nicely over the top of those, and he's just prepping to do the layups for those. And now that the brackets are all done for the main gear doors, I can bolt them on to the gear legs here. And being that they are bolted on with the same bolts there that hold the bracket there for the retraction mechanism, those bolts need to be torqued to spec. So they're 3/8 of an inch bolts, so torquing them up to about 22.9 foot-pounds on there, or 275 inch-pounds. So yeah, and I did the same thing on the ones that are holding the brake calipers and axles and stuff on when I put those other brackets on, which we'll see shortly. And this is one of those going on there now. So I got the little three sort of pronged bracket on there. It's a bit difficult to see because of the lighting and stuff there, but that's what the 2 arms are sticking out, and the other one's kind of hidden there in the shadow of the leg itself. But yeah, just torquing those, and there's 2 different bolt sizes on the axles there, so there's 3/8 and 5/16. So the 5/16 ones only go to, I think it was 12.9 foot-pounds for the torque spec there for doing those. And it's always pretty satisfying just doing something for what you think will be, or hope will be, the last time. So putting these bolts in, and or at least tightening them up and putting the brackets on and saying yep, that's going to be the last time I have to do that, is just a good feeling. So this is the one for the left side of the aircraft now going on, just fitting it over the 4 bolts there, and putting the washers and nuts on there. And I actually had to go and hunt around for another washer there at the end of this, as you'll see. But yeah, so the next thing after bolting these brackets on is to put the gear doors on again, which I already had on before, and just make sure everything's still nicely lined up. And then as you'll see coming up, the next job after that is to actually bond or sort of do a layup to join the upper and lower parts of the door, the one where they sort of meet at a right angle. And that's going to be done with a little like 2 plies of carbon on the inside and 2 on the outside. So yeah, this is where I'm looking for a washer here. Need an extra one, but anyway, I had one there. And so I got that done and bolted up, as you can see, working at 5 times normal speed, which is kind of how I normally work. At least I wish I could work. I'd get so much more done in a day if I could go this fast. So anyway, and here I've moved on to putting the actual door on, at least the lower part, onto that three-pronged bracket, sorry. And it was a little bit of finessing around with that, because after the carbon layup was done on the door, it made things a little bit thicker, and I had to bend the brackets a little bit, and when you bend them a little bit because of the angles, it sort of changes the hole positions a little bit, so I had to just do a little bit of adjustment on there, but as you can see, it fits in there nice and snug. And with once all that bodywork is all had a new clean coat of primer on there, that should look pretty spiffy. And I'm still working on the design for the retraction mechanism for the lower part of the door there. I've got it figured out, but I've got to clear all that brake caliper and also the that new bracket that holds the door on. So I think I'm going to figure it out. And here you can see I've got the lower section on as well. So it looks good. It's all fitting in nicely there. So those two pieces have to be bonded together now with a layup. And this is what I'm doing there. I've just put some masking tape around the legs so I don't get resin all over it. And I'm just working on putting a layup of just 2 plies on the inside. And this is on the other side door right now. So I did both of them. And one of them actually moved after I did it. So this afternoon, Friday, I had to actually cut that one. And then decided to do the outside first with it closed, with the gear actually retracted, and you'll see that coming up. So anyway, there's always a case, or oftentimes a case, where you do something and then it doesn't quite work out just right, and so you just got to do it again. And the second time's always a charm, or at least most of the time is always a charm. So yeah, and here you see now I've done the layup, and I'm just wetting down and putting the peel ply on there, and that just squashes down all the carbon fiber there and smooths everything out. So when you peel that peel ply off, you really don't have to do any real finish work, maybe just a tiny bit on the edges, and just leaves a nice smooth transition from the previous carbon to the new one. And there's the one on the other side. Actually, yeah, that was the one I was working on there, so that one's done. And as you've probably noticed, Jeff's been doing a bunch of sanding on the fuselage now, and a lot of this he's done because when we did the post curing, it kind of imprinted a lot of the foam core through on the skin, so he's basically sanding that smooth again, and then ultimately when he puts another round of primer on there, everything will look nice. And back on the foreplane, the last thing that needs to be done here before we can close out is to get these iGlide bushings sort of bonded into place, and they just kind of live in the center section of where the push rods are, and they're designed to just pick up any sort of flex that's in the push rods, which would cause them to sort of bend, and give them something to lean against or sort of move against without going against the carbon fiber. And and as you can see, those layups that Devon did on there have been all finished and cleaned up and stuff. So those brackets now are rock solid. So we're not going to have any flex in there that's going to translate into sloppiness in the elevator controls. So the only place that there's any real movement for sloppiness is flexing of the actual tubes themselves, and those are I think 7/8 of an inch 4130 tubes, so they shouldn't flex too much. And here's Devon just putting a little bit of fill in the little miniature holes that you have on the carbon fiber there for those particular ones, because I think those are laid up and vacuum bagged, but you still can sometimes end up with little pinholes. Those are for the straight fences. They're going to go on the wings. And what I'm doing here is creating a little joggle flange for this opening that is where the left side parachute strap deploys from. In the case of you deploying the parachute, it sort of pops out of there, and it straddles across the front of the intake tray there and joins up with all the other straps there for the parachute, which you've seen a way back. And so what I've done here is I've actually put a little bit of metal strapping there and just taped it into place, and I'm using that kind of like as a fence. so I can get on there with the right angle sander, and I can just thin out the fuselage skin there, where I'm creating this little step down joggle, and I need to make it sort of drop down about 30 or sort of 20-30 thousandths, because that's how thick this little skin is that's going to cover over that, and it's just going to be sort of bonded on with kind of like this methacrylate, just a little bit like sort of epoxy glue. And here I'm just using the Dremel to get in the corner there and just make it sort of square. So I just created this little step down there, and that little metal strap there worked really well, for creating a fence. So I ended up with a nice straight edge where I was, creating this little step down. And as you can see, peeling off all the other tape that I had, which was a guide, allows me to, finish things off there nicely. And I had to get in there with a little bit of sandpaper as well and get that sorted out. But there you can see I've got my little wall there, or a little door that's being made, but I hadn't trimmed it down to size yet. And here just working with a little bit of sandpaper just to finish it off. So quite a little bit of messing around, but this is the sort of thing that was an afterthought, how we're going to do this. And ultimately, for production, this is the sort of thing that would be built, added back into the mold, so that joggle would already be there. You wouldn't have to do it by hand. And there you can see my little door that I created and trimmed fits nicely. So that's ready to be sort of just glued in place with the light glue, so it can break out when the parachute is deployed, or if it's deployed. And this is the little cover there for the intake tray. And so what I've done is I've just put some 5-minute epoxy there to hold the back seam, and I'll be doing a layup over that in a minute, which you'll see. And here we are back on the doors. So now that they've been bonded together on the inside, they need to also be bonded together on the outside. So what I'm doing here with the right angle, with a little sanding disc on there, I'm just taking off the primer for the first inch on the vertical door and also the horizontal door, and just setting up a place there, so I can put in 2 layers of carbon fiber over that, and join those two together. So it doesn't take long to do that, and actually it's kind of nice just being able to take the primer off quickly, because as soon as you see the white disappear, it's time to move on to the next section, so you're not grinding away too much carbon fiber or whatever. So yeah, it didn't take long. These are the simplest layup that you can do, really. And actually this is probably the simplest layup, because all I'm doing is just creating a layup over this join between the two pieces. So you got the existing intake tray, which is closest to me, and then you just got this sheet of carbon fiber, I think it's only about 60 thou thick, which extends from where I'm working with the brush there up to where the clicos are. And what the trick is here is basically those clicos are going to be come out, and this little bit of carbon fiber will actually sit up just normally up by itself, and we'll be able to actually slide in the bracket for the intake scoop underneath it, along with the linear actuator that opens it up, and then we'll be gluing that down just with some of that epoxy. So if the parachute has to deploy, that will actually break free, and then the strap that goes from the left side there will actually come out all the way across there and join up to the other ones there that's on the right side of the aircraft or on the left side of the screen. So it's designed to sort of be a breakaway like that, but the back side of it will be bonded in with these 3 layers of carbon fiber. And as you can see, I'm just working through putting down like a 2-inch wide strip on each one, and then wetting it down nicely without getting it too wet. And then lastly, you come back with a layer of peel ply on there, and just cover it over and smooth it all down, and you get a nice finish. And so because of the way it was, that seam was sort of held down with tape and then bonded down with some 5-minute, it's sort of under a bit of flexing stress right now. So once that's all cured up and you undo those clicos there, this will actually lift up, and as I said, allow us to slide the bracket in there that sort of holds the bottom of the intake scoop, and at the same time we'll have the linear actuator on there, and that will drop through that slot that we put in there, and finally we can put the bolt through from underneath in the baggage compartment, and once that bolt's in place, that holds the intake scoop down, and obviously the linear actuator is what allows you to lift it up and down. And I think initially we'll just have it disconnected and just have it all the way down, and if we need it, we'll hook it up so it runs in conjunction with the cowling door at the back of the engine cowling. So there you can see I'm just wetting down the peel ply, get it all sorted out and finished off. So that was pretty much a simple layout, and you saw the whole thing happen there. So you just want to make sure that when you're doing these, so the peel ply on there, you get it wet all the way down to the very edge of where the carbon fiber is, and you just push it down nicely, because what you're doing is you're sort of smoothing out the transition between the edge of the carbon fiber that you've put down and then the existing base underneath it. And if you wet it down nicely in that, you get a nice resin sort of transition in that, so when you peel the peel ply off, you don't even see where the transition is. It's just a smooth thing, you don't even have to sand it. So same type of thing going on here, except this time only just 2 plies, and this is only, that door is only 8 inches wide, so a little 2-inch strip there, so 1 inch on the upper and 1 inch hanging down on the lower. And I actually ended up making the 2 layers, one of them slightly narrower, so one was about 1 3/4 inches of width, and that's the first one that I put down there. And then the second one was 2 inches wide, and that way they kind of, one fares in over the other, so you don't get so much of a large step between the finished carbon fiber and the door. So you know, it just starts off thinner and then it gets a little bit fatter, and then it goes back thin again as it comes onto the other door. So, but again, these are really simple layups here compared to the marathon I did the other day when I was doing that one in the nose. This is easy because it really only takes about 10 minutes to put both of those on and add the peel ply, and you know, it's really easy. So quite happy to do this on a Friday afternoon. Kind of enjoyable actually. And there's the result there. So that's all set up to cure, and on the either side of that I put some clear packing tape, so the carbon fiber, any overlap there, wouldn't stick to the existing fuselage on either side. It's difficult to see where that packing tape is because it's just clear. So, but anyway, it's on the fuselage on either side. And there I've got a stick and some foam there to hold that door nice and snug up in place as well, because it was sort of hanging a little bit low. And one of the last jobs I did there on Friday was in these, you know, this new bulkhead that I created there, because I cut this out of our old spar that we had. Closest to me there, it's FR4 is where we're bolting up to, but where I'm working there, it was actually just foam core, 1/4 inch. So I got in there with a tool and just sort of took out the first 1/2 inch of the foam, because you know, that would be sort of allow moisture and stuff to get in there. And so took it out, and now I'm just basically filling it back up again with a bit of resin and flux mix, and this is what it looks like when it's done there. So that'll harden up, and then you won't have to worry about any sort of moisture creeping into that foam core there, because it's all closed out. And you know, could have done a carbon layup over there, but it was really unnecessary. And also with the remaining resin and flux I had, I just filled the ends here of the ailerons, and also did the same thing on the elevators. It's difficult to see there, but in the corners there was a couple little openings that were left over from bonding that all up. So those are all closed out now, so things are really moving along nicely. And Jeff was busy there on Friday afternoon just getting everything finally prepped up for closing out the foreplan on Monday. So he's got the skins all nicely fitted there, and everything's pretty much dialed in and ready to go. So we'll get that closed out on Monday, and then get it post-cured in our oven. And lastly, I'll leave you with a look of, as Devon says, looks like the 101 Dalmatians with all their little spots and stuff on there right now, but it won't be too long, and we'll be masking up the windows there and putting a new coat of primer on there and making it look all nice. And we'll get those little strake extensions bonded onto the doors as well. So yeah, things are really moving along, and not too far now before we have to move up to the airport. So that's our update for this week, and thanks again for watching, and subscribe if you haven't already, and tune in again on Tuesday and see what we're up to.